I'm Rod Duff, your host.
And I'm producer Barbie.
And together,
we bring you our podcast,
Insights and Straight Talk. And with that, producer Barbie and I are out. Hey, you know what I noticed while I was watching that opening is I bet in those clips, I very rarely wear this vest, but I just wanted to kind of throw out some colors today. But in that clip, like 3/4 of them are wearing this. I wonder if that's an attractive thing. Anyway, I am very excited. You know how we bring messages to the great middle class to enlighten, inform, engage, bring together, and make more powerful as a group in designing our own futures, because we'll have more of a voice in the world. Today, I really like these type of discussions because they're about personal growth. You know, they're about stories that people have gone through and about the issues that have caused them to get to this point or have enabled them to get to this point. I am very excited because that's another one of those discussions we're having today, and I'm very up on it. And they always pump you up. So Jeff Patterson is a self-improvement. He goes with the yielding warrior method, which is really interesting because there's just in the name, the yielding warrior. So you're not being aggressive, but you're also right there. So he's multiple times been an author of published books, and he's got a great program. I don't want to take too much of your time because he's only got a little bit of time left. So hopefully I got everything. Otherwise, Jeff Patterson is going to correct me on all my mistakes. Hi, Jeff. How you doing, man? You look familiar.
Yeah, I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing very good. It's Friday before Easter. It's Good Friday. Thank you for taking the time to be here. God, you know what? People are jumping on. This usually doesn't. Well, okay, Jeff, you're getting a fan base here because usually it takes 3, 4, 5, 10 minutes to get a few on. We've got 130 people on right now. So I think this is going to be a busy day. Let's get right to it. Jeff, would you dig in and kind of start from why and where? You're on a journey. As all of us are. Your journey is unique to you and your message. And that's exactly what we look for. So being able to give information and enlighten the great middle class, start with your background. Why'd you get, what did you do before? All that stuff. Let's start there and just kind of start digging through. We'll pick up little either questions or points. I may jump in and say, hey, and just want you to expand on something. Other than that, man, this is your show, brother. Take it off or take off on it. Don't take it off.
Yeah. So I got introduced to the meditative arts in a bit of a roundabout way at a fairly young age. I was about 19 years old and I was very into Western boxing. And in fact, I used to go to a boxing gym that's just a few blocks down the street here from my academy. And at a boxing gym, for those of you that aren't familiar with them, they run a lot different than your traditional style fitness classes in that you usually have 3 or 4 coaches rolling around, and each one of those coaches might have a handful of fighters that they're working with. Well, at this one particular gym, one of the coaches that was there was a very well-known coach. He had created champions in both the amateur and the professional arena, and I really wanted to get to spend some time with him. But he wasn't looking to take on any new athletes. And so I'd show up at the gym, when I knew he was going to be there. I'd work hard and try to get him to notice me. After about 3 or 4 months of following him around, I finally got him to notice me a little bit, and he started giving me some tips. And it was only about maybe 2 to 3 weeks of getting to work with him when he said something to me that changed my life forever, in that he told me if I really wanted to be a good boxer, I should start doing meditation and Tai Chi. Now, being this kind of naive 19-year-old kid thinking, isn't Tai Chi for old people in the park? How's that going to help me be a better fighter? From shifting my
Flow,
mindset.
right? Tai Chi is the movements in slow motion and holding the pose. It's kind of a cross between exercise and yoga, right?
It's a meditative art through movement. And so we do with breath work, standing meditation, sitting meditation, there's
Yeah.
movement practices. It was based off of a martial art. And so there's lots of things that come with the training. But here I am thinking that this is something that is not for me, to being something that changed the whole trajectory of my life. And through the years, I've been very fortunate to have, over 26,000 students come through my academy and thousands more online. And I've
Wow.
heard hundreds of stories of how the meditative arts has positively influenced people's lives. And that's what's made me so passionate about trying to get the message out there and show people how to create an evolving life practice with the meditative arts, and understand that you don't need to retire to a cave and meditate for the rest of your life in order to integrate some of these practices. And so that's what my message is all about.
That entering a cave to meditate kind of defeats the whole purpose, doesn't it? You want to get out there and affect and enlighten the world. Olivia Chandler here just started it off with a question that I think is pretty good. This is powerful. Thank you, Olivia. I'm sure Jeff feels the same, probably more so. How can I start applying the yielding warrior method today? So we're a little bit ahead. I mean, they're kind of, as they're talking about, but so you went through that process, and that's how you came to something that affected your life. So, and to the point of, would you say 28,000 plus hundreds of thousands on the line or something like that?
I've had over 26,000 here at the academy and thousands more online.
So obviously it's a very effective message. It's we always talk about that, giving into the community that you flowered, blossom into, or whatever. Giving back is part of that vibe. You got to keep the lights on, but you're bringing in messages that are important to people. Are you ready to start going into the definition of yielding warrior?
Sure. Yeah, we can talk about whatever you like. With the yielding warrior method, what I've done is I've broken down the meditative arts into 5 basic paths that you can follow. There is the physical side and the performance side, where a lot of athletes these days are practicing the meditative arts to help improve their performance. CEOs are practicing the meditative arts to help improve their focus and ability to handle pressure and stress. There's so many different reasons and ways that the meditative arts can help on this side of things. Then there's the therapeutic side of the practice, and this is where it helps with our longevity and our health and our mobility. Then there's the medical side of the practice, which all of Chinese medicine is based off of Qigong theory, which has been around for 4,000 years. Then we have
what's Qigong theory? What's the Qigong theory?
Qigong is meditative art. Yeah, it's something that's been around for about 4,000 years. It's got breathing strategies, energetic principles. A lot of stuff is involved with that. Then we have the 4th pillar or path, which would be the philosophical side of the practice. And this is something that I've always been really passionate about, because it helps open up your perspective and see things from multiple angles and helping you to be more strategic. And then the 5th and final pillar is the spiritual path. And so as you start coming to a practice like this, you might resonate with one or couple of those areas. Then we start incorporating things from ritual practices, active practices, and philosophical practices, and building a life practice with the meditative arts to reap the most benefits from it.
Wow. Okay. No wonder 26,000 people have been coming through your thing. This is a very important message and aspiration. The yielding warrior method. I was kind of curious in this one. I like this one. How is it different I guess just by digging in a little bit more, but how is that approach, your approach, the warrior method, how does that approach differ from other Demayan? He says from traditional mindful techniques, but actually, as you just expressed, your basis comes from things that have been around for 4,000 years. We are now that's the traditional, because we all these things came into our life looking to within yourself from the Asian areas. I mean, am I wrong about that? That's where it all came from 4,000 years ago, right?
You know, it between India and China and is kind of the most where you see most of these arts come from. You know, there's a story that, you know, the old monks of China who were very combative and they studied Tai Chi for the martial principles. They were very beat up and they were broken and their bodies were, you know, not very healthy. And this guy called
From the battles? From the battles, you mean, or
from training and battles and everything. So
gotcha.
there was this guy named Buddha Dhammo who came over from India and saw the health of these practitioners and kind of what they were doing. And he started integrating these Qigong concepts and teaching them about the health side of the practice. And nowadays, because it's so commonly known of the health benefits of the practice, you know, 95% of the people that practice Tai Chi and Qigong have no idea what it is used for in the martial sense. They just study it for the medical and the therapeutic side of the practice.
Yeah. So what you're talking about right now is what most Western civilization use it for. You know what I mean? I mean, as a tool to be able to make what you are and what you do better. For instance, Danny made me think of this when this method help with high stress jobs or burnout recovery? Of course, right? But how?
So the meditative arts definitely helps with stress. You know, a lot of people come to the practice because they have stress disorders, anxiety, panic attacks, depression, and using this practice as a life practice and integrating some of these things from ritual, active, and philosophical methods helps improve our awareness. So we start recognizing these imbalances. Now, the meditative arts isn't meant to be a pill that we take after we get stressed out. It's meant to be something that we integrate into our life so we don't reach those points of maximum stress. And then when we do start going down that path, we have the tools to help find ourselves back to center. And so it definitely will help with that. You know, one of the things that I've heard over and over again with people is that, you know, I tried meditation, but it just didn't work for me. I couldn't quiet my mind. Well, somewhere along the way,
Danny, Dixon, listen right now because he's talking about this is very true. Go ahead. Sorry.
Somewhere along the way, people got this misguided idea that in order to be successful with meditation, that they have to reach this state of nirvana where nothing bothers you. And it couldn't be further from the truth, because if you're sitting for 20 minutes or doing a movement practice like Tai Chi or whatever that is, and you get distracted 50 times during that session, and every time you get distracted, you recognize the imbalance and come back to center, you just got 50 repetitions on how to be off track and find that balance. And so that awareness that we gain from this practice, and if we do this every day, every month, every year, we start to develop that power and that ability to be unshakable,
like
if you will,
right?
where, you know,
like
not very many things can throw us off of our game.
Right. Well, like I was just saying, it's like, you know, a muscle. You gotta work on it. You gotta develop it. You gotta keep it fit. You know, that's how these. What's the old? I heard it with one of my son's baseball teams. It takes 10,000 reps to get get it right, and that goes for everything, right?
Yeah. So new people coming to the meditative arts, you know, I've found that there's been a lot of challenges through the years being a teacher and trying to get people to see the benefits of this. And you know what? My goal is anybody that comes to this practice is I want you to see how these practices can influence you and really make it a life practice. And so I've come up with these three considerations that I find that if people really put a little bit of effort and thought into these, that they're much more likely to be successful with the practice. And real briefly, I'll kind of touch on what all three of these areas are. And the first one is, what is it that's drawing you to the practice? Why are you wanting to integrate meditation into your life? Are you looking to deal with a stress disorder, anxiety, panic attacks? Are you looking to improve your mobility and health so you can stay healthy into your later years to watch your grandkids grow up? Or maybe you're an athlete or a professional and you're looking to improve your performance. Whatever that is for you, put some heartfelt thought into that and then take it a step deeper and think, if I accomplish this goal, what are 10 or 20 things that are going to positively change in my life by reaching this goal? And really think about how that affects you for your own interpersonal communication, your relationships, your business, whatever that is. Then I want you to flip the coin and think about 10 or 20 negative things that will happen if you don't accomplish this goal. Because what this does is it gives you the fuel for those times when your alarm goes off in the morning and it's time to get up and practice, and you're tempted to hit the snooze button and not get up tomorrow. So by doing this, we have that reason to get up. So now, instead of looking at this like a chore that you have to do every day, it starts to become something that you get to do because you see so many benefits from the practice that you never even think about missing it. Then the second consideration, which is extremely powerful, is the idea of consistency. And there's this old Chinese story that illustrates this idea really well. And it's about this stonecutter who was very well known all over China. And he made these beautiful sculptures of animals and landscapes. And his work was so unique that anytime somebody would see it, they just knew it was his. And because of this, people would travel from all around to come stay with him for years at a time and study with him and learn the trade. Well, every morning, the stonecutter, he would go down to the river and meditate first thing. One day after his meditation session, he's walking along the river and he has this profound vision of this big 6-foot tall, mystical Chinese jade dragon. And he was so taken by this vision that he just knew that it had to be his next project. And so he spends the next few months traveling all around looking for the perfect stone for his new creation. Finally, he finds it and he brings it back to his place. And for the next period of time, day in and out, he just spends time sitting with the stone and feeling the energy and trying to envision how this dragon's going to appear. Finally, one day when he begins working on the stone, he carefully places his chisel on the top of the rock and starts tapping away with his hammer. The same place over and over again, hundreds, if not thousands of times a day. Nothing changed. A few days went by and still nothing. A few more days went by and his apprentices started thinking, man, maybe he should try something else. It doesn't seem to be working. They started second guessing him. A few more days went by and 1,000 more taps to the hammer or to the chisel. And finally, this big 3-foot section of the stone separates from the rock and creates this smooth, slightly curved line that was soon to be part of the dragon's back. One of his apprentices who was watching said, "How did you know that that strike was going to break the stone?" And the stonecutter replied, "It wasn't that strike that broke the stone. It was the thousands of strikes before it that broke the stone." And with a bit of a discouraged look on his face, the apprentice said, "But I've been watching you and there was no change. Why didn't you try something else?" And the stonecutter got down on one knee and he felt the smooth line that he just created. And he said, "Each strike was not wasted. The stone was changing beneath the surface. And through this consistency and repetition, not only was the stone being molded, so was the one who wields the hammer." And the reason why I resonate so well with this story is that This is the meditative arts. We don't always see the change day to day with our breathing strategies, our movement practices, and studying these philosophical concepts. But through our effort and energy, we lay the foundation to reap the benefit of these fruits for the rest of our life. And then the third consideration, which is equally as important, is you need to find a guide, somebody that can help you and show you the shortcuts and show you how to integrate this stuff to follow whatever path it is you want to follow. The meditative arts is extremely deep. I've been studying for 36 years and I'm still just a student learning all the time. And if you think that you're going to go on YouTube and sift through the thousands of videos out there and get any kind of depth in your practice, you're going to waste a lot of time. And in fact, I've had students come into the academy who have been self-taught and they've been training 10, even 15 years, and they'll see somebody who's been here 6 or 12 months that has a deeper practice than they do. And, your time is valuable. You're not around here for very long. Using somebody to help you create a life practice with this is essential. And so finding your why, understanding consistency, and having somebody in your corner, if you do that, you're so much more likely to be successful with this practice.
Yeah, it's like being a doctor. You gotta focus and go all the way through it and spend that time to learn it. You don't practice to be a surgeon online, right? You go to the schooling, you go through the process that is actual, real, and true facts. That's why there may be some sort of answer here. Dixon, thank you from this, because he's talking about, is ritual really, and I already know the answer to this, I'm sure. Is ritual really necessary for meditation, or can we keep it simple? And I think the answer is yes, but do you want an effect? Do you want the results, or is there any effect if you just kind of meditate? Oh, I'm really feeling stressed right now, I'm going to meditate. You won't be good at it because you haven't been working at it, but what is the level, where is there benefit at the keeping it simple?
Well, first off, many rituals are extremely simple. It doesn't have to be a complicated ritual to have a daily ritual in your life. A simple ritual could be every morning after you get up and brush your teeth, you go through a simple movement practice to start your day to improve that awareness and get that breath going. So we start our day off well. Or maybe it's sitting in silence for 10 minutes, working with your breath work. There's many things we can do with a ritual practice to keep it very simple. It doesn't have to be complicated. And having this pillar is very essential in developing a depth in a meditation practice. Now, with our ritual practices, we do what we have active practices, and they can be done when you're walking down the street or standing in line at the grocery store. And it's a way for us to integrate this awareness and this training in everything we do. So in combination with a ritual, some active practices, and then some mindset training that we do, we can get a pretty deep practice in our meditative arts, as well as see a lot of benefits that it has to offer. And it doesn't need to be something that takes you away from everything that you do in life. The Dalai Lama once said that everybody should meditate for 20 minutes a day. Unless you're too busy, then you should meditate for an hour. And I really resonate with that, in that it's not something that's going to take away from what you have. And in fact, I've had business professionals come in that say, I don't have time to do 20 minutes a day. But what they find is, by doing a practice, they start to gain a sense of awareness and present state of mind that makes them more productive. So while they are taking 20 minutes out for this breath work or this movement practice, their whole day, they end up getting more done because they're more productive in what they do. And so it really is essential, and you will get endless benefits from doing it.
So I think you've really stuck. I think Dixon is really connected with your message here, because he's asking follow-up questions here, which is awesome. And here's that next question is, how do we know if it's starting to work? And that comes from inside of you, right? The feeling, the energy, the vibe, right? I'm assuming.
You'll do different meditation practices and you'll know that they're working instantly. And then other things, it takes time, like, chopping away at the stone. You'll be laying this groundwork. It'll help you be more settled. It'll help you be more aware. It'll help you be more in tune so you're not getting off balance and going too far off track. And so there's certain things that will come immediately, and there's other things that come with time, but it's through that consistent effort and doing this as a daily ritual practice and integrating these active practices that we really start to see all the benefits of our time invested.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, and it's very logical. Uh, this is a different kind of practice, a different kind of medicine, but it's very practical in all things that we do, going to work and stuff. All those things still count on there. How does one build their own? Oh, here, you were talking about this. People actually come to you to learn to do this practice too. Am I right?
Yeah, I have online programs as well as here the Academy in Portland. And so, if anybody out there is looking for help, we're happy to work with you and show you how to create an evolving life practice with these techniques.
Exactly. All right. So sometime during the, before you have to go, and when you go into the green room or sometime while we're talking here, preferably in the green room, because there's a lot of questions. It's really an interesting and captive audience here. Type in, and I think you can only do the private chat. So when I see it, I'll copy it and paste it over into the comments. It'd be a lot easier if you could just talk in the comments, but I guess I get why not. But leave that information behind in how to get in touch with you, Clayton. Listen to this: how to get in touch with Jeff here about creating and developing your own practice. That's an important thing. More of this that goes around, in all honesty, the better the world becomes. The softer and gentler and more productive, and just better life goes around with this. What's your most powerful personal breakthrough on using your method?
I think what is most helpful for people to understand when it comes to how these breakthroughs come out is understanding the basic core principles that affect any meditation journey, whether you're doing Tai Chi, Qigong, sitting meditation, yoga, it doesn't matter what it is. These 5 principles are the basis for any practice. And if you understand them, you'll see how they can lead to multiple breakthroughs. And briefly, I'll touch on what they are. They are regulating the body, regulating the breath, regulating the mind, regulating the energy, and regulating the spirit. Regulating the body is where we usually begin because it's the easiest one to see immediate results. And the basic idea is our skeletal alignment and our muscular tension in the body. For example, if you're sitting down at your computer for 3 or 4 hours and your shoulders are rounded forward and you're starting to feel depleted, maybe your neck's getting sore, your energy's feeling really weak. And then another time when the most important person in your world walks in the room and your body perks up and you feel like you're on top of the world, these 2 different energetic states we're in 100% control of all day, every day. And by enhancing our awareness throughout the day through the meditative arts, we start learning how to regulate our energy with these physical adjustments. On a little bit of a deeper level of body regulation involves maintaining some sort of muscular development in the body, flexibility, eating a healthy diet, and getting an appropriate amount of sleep. Now, the second regulation is regulating the breath, and this is an extremely deep topic. And in example, Qigong is often referred to as the science of the breath because there's hundreds of different breathing strategies. And an example of this is if you ever listen to somebody sleep, Their natural breathing pattern is a longer inhale and a shorter exhale. And this is the
Hmm.
body's natural way of bringing your conscious mind into your subconscious mind, which is where we are when we're sleeping and dreaming. And this is an example of a yin breath, which helps bring that energy inward, which is great for stress reduction, dealing with anxiety, dealing with panic attacks, boosting our creativity. There's lots of reasons why we would do this yin side of the breath. Then we have the yang side of the breath, which is more aggressive. It's kind of like if you ever had to push your car, you pick up something heavy, your natural instinct is to exhale and put tension in the breath, make the breath audible. Once we start understanding how to use the breath strategically, we can use it to guide our physical, mental, and emotional well-being throughout the day. A lot of times we refer to the breath as the banana that leads the monkey mind when the mind's going crazy, which leads into the next regulation, which is regulating the mind. And regulating the mind is something that you'll work with on your entire life's journey with the meditative arts. And we kind of already touched on it a little bit when you're doing a sitting meditation and you get distracted and you recognize the imbalance and you find your center and come back to focus. There's this old story of these two old monks that are walking down a dirt road, and it's after a huge rainstorm. They come up to this big mud puddle, and on the other side of the puddle is this beautiful little girl who's standing there in a white dress, and she's crying. And the older monk, he hollers across the puddle and says, "Is everything okay? Can we help you?" And she says, "I need to be somewhere, but if I walk across this puddle, I'm going to get my dress all dirty." So the older monk, he rolls up his pant legs and he walks across the puddle, picks her up, puts her on his back, takes her to the other side, sets her down, and she's off on her way. Well, him and the younger monk are walking a couple miles down the road. And finally, the younger monk is just furious and he says, "You know we're not supposed to touch girls, but you did back there at the puddle." And the older monk looks down and says, "I left that girl back at the puddle. Why are you still carrying her?" And how many times in life do we have to get 2 miles down the muddy road before we realize that we need to let things go? And so understanding this mental control is extremely important, but even more important is recognizing when the imbalance first starts. Because if you get 2 miles down the muddy road, it's a lot harder to turn around and come back. But if you see it from the beginning, it's a lot easier to use these tools to make the adjustments. And then the fourth regulation is regulating the energy. And this is an extremely deep topic and something that we could literally talk for hours about. But the basic idea is once you've reached a competent level in regulating the body, the breath, and the mind, you now have the tools to circulate the energy in the body, to lead it inward, to extend it outward, to get different expressions that help us control our physical, mental, and emotional well-being. And then the fifth and final regulation is regulating the spirit. And this is an extremely deep topic and very profound. And it's the idea of learning how to elevate our spiritual awareness and at the same time stay rooted. And an example would be on a kind of more of a basic level. You think about most times when you get excited, your body gets tense and you have this excitement level where
Your
we're
heartbeat goes.
we're losing our ability to stay focused because of the energy that's going through the body. But when we can learn how to settle the energy and stay rooted and increase our awareness, our excitement level, now we have this ability to reach those states that athletes call flow states, where they perform at a very high level, but their energy is as high as it can be. This idea of learning how to regulate the spirit and be aware of that is a very important part of the practice. So with these 5 regulations, you can see that they can lead to many realizations and they can lead to changes in any area of your life just by cultivating these underlying principles of the practice.
So that is a description of a life worth living and being worth to live it, because of everything you just said. When it comes to I mean, because you're making yourself a more powerful and settled, calm influence for others to lean on when that may be needed. And honestly, once you start sending that energy out, I'm sure it's like a moth to a porch light. They're drawn to you, right? But one thing I wanted to ask about that, I'm assuming this works for everybody, no matter what the case, and to be better. But what about people, and for people who have chronic pain or have limited mobility and other things? I mean, where does this practice with ability go forward?
That's a great question. And,
Yes.
many people are drawn to the practice because of the many benefits with pain and having so many ways that we can integrate this. I've had students who have had numerous disabilities come to this practice and find a way not only to improve in certain areas, but also have something that they can do. I had this one guy that's been here with me for
Yeah.
little over 30 years. He's in his mid 80s, got a number of health problems now, getting up there in age. But he's still coming in here, and, he's limited on his balance and he's limited on certain things that he can do. But if you can breathe, if you can sit in a chair, if you can lay in a bed, there are always things that we can do with breathing strategies, with subtle energetic movements in the body. There's ways that we can integrate and use this practice for everyone.
What about chronic pain? So, and what I mean by that, great example, by the way, as limited mobility, because you don't need to have your mobility, having a person's mobility directs the practices that they are comfortable and able to utilize. Those practices are just as important as other ones, right? What about chronic pain? Does it help? I got to think yes, because you have control over your mind, emotions, your sensory stuff. I mean, what we do now is if we hurt, we take a pill. That's what the pharmaceutical companies medicine wants us to do on a regular basis. They make us sick and then they say, hey, I got a pill for it. So is this able to be used as as much also not just building your life, but being a holistic medicine kind of thing, helping chronic pain?
Yes, for sure. And, for those of you that want a little bit of scientific proof, there's hundreds, if not thousands, of articles out there on how Tai Chi and Qigong can help with chronic pain. It's not just me preaching this stuff.
Right.
There's lots of evidence that show that it's really helpful in that area. In that, when one of the worst things we can do when we have pain or we get in a depressive state is to go sit in a dark room and quit moving. Once we start moving the body and getting that energy flowing, our body starts
Absolutely.
doing what it was meant to do, and we start to become more healthy. We start to feel better in certain things that we're doing. And so having a subtle practice like this that we can take at any level, whether you're a high performing athlete or somebody who is on crutches or in a wheelchair, and find things that you can do to help wherever you are, and start to build a practice that you can pull some stuff, for your ritual practices, for your active practices and philosophical practices, and start molding a life practice around your lifestyle that's specific for you.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man. When it comes to conflict, when it comes to stress, you've already touched on stress a little bit, but then, as we all know, with our family, with our spouses, with our work, conflict's about to happen. Mac, thank you for this question. How does your teaching and that philosophy help with real life conflict and stress. We kind of know about stress, but they're still both important to talk about here.
Yeah, so yielding is an extremely uh, cool concept. In fact, it's something I've been very passionate about for many years. My most recent book is called The Yielding Warrior, and I've broken down yielding into three kind of main pillars. We have physical yielding, mental yielding, and emotional yielding. Physical yielding is the idea that I push you, you push me, whoever's the bigger, stronger person with the most leverage eventually is going to push the other person over. But with yielding, instead of us trying to see who the bigger meathead is, when you push me, I get out of the way of that force. And now I can respond with less effort. So I'm not trying to butt heads with you and see if I'm bigger and stronger than you. Now, it's obvious how this is beneficial in athletics or fighting or anything where you come up against other athletes, because there's always people that are going to be bigger, stronger, and faster than you. Now, in order to be good at physical yielding, a lot of things have to come into play. You need to be well rooted. The lower part of your body needs to be strong and flexible so you can change your central equilibrium without getting tight. The body has to be relaxed, the breath has to be calm, and the mind has to be present. Now, while it may be a lifetime journey to really master these skills, from day one, by integrating meditation into your life, you start to develop this awareness of these things inside yourself. And this is where it gets really interesting, because not only do you see these things more clearly in yourself, but you also start to see them more clearly in other people. So say, for example, you and I are having a conversation, and I say something that unsettles you, and I pick up on it right from that first sign of imbalance. It's a lot easier to adjust the tone in the conversation and keep us in a harmonious place than if I'm not paying attention to that. And pretty soon I'm so far off track, you want to knock me upside the head. And so learning how to use yielding in all of our interactions is extremely powerful. One, we're being more considerate, which is something that we could all do more of. And two, it allows us to be more strategic in our interactions and guide conversations to a positive outcome with the least amount of resistance. And this is beneficial in relationships and business and sales and negotiations. I mean, there's so many ways we could apply this. Then we have the third pillar of yielding, which is what we call emotional yielding. And emotional yielding is very much like mental yielding, but it's with our own interpersonal conflicts. So you think about, oftentimes something will happen and we'll respond and we'll go down this path, and we might get an hour, a day, a week down that road and realize maybe that wasn't the best choice. But by
I've been there.
by having meditation in our life and being able to step back and be more present and not let our emotions get involved, oftentimes we're able to make a more educated decision that saves us a lot of heartache on the other side.
Yeah.
And I've been teaching this idea of yielding now for many years. I've been running my academy for over 30 years. And one of the
Wow.
most common things I'll hear people say is, yielding makes a lot of sense. In fact, I do yielding all the time. Well, I would agree in that I think everybody does some degree of yielding all the time. However, it's kind of like if you or I were to walk into a crime scene with a detective who's been on the job for 30 years, I guarantee you that person would see things about the series of events and the timeline that I know at least I would have no clue of. And having meditation in your life helps you be more aware of things inside yourself and inside of other people that I truly believe if you don't have a practice like this, you're never going to have that level of awareness and are going to miss a lot of what life is presenting you. You still there?
Ah, damn it. I was sitting there. I was really having a good conversation with myself, obviously. So what I was saying is that that's such an incredible and healthy way to live your life. And if you're not doing that, the point I was making to everybody who's in the green room, I guess, but the point I was making is that you have the ability to create your own life. And if you don't, like you said, you can't experience all the things out of life. And the sadder part is you may never even know it because you haven't been paying attention. I want to say hi to, I want to take a break off of here. A very good, has become a very good friend of mine, Ronaldo Arens. She is a extremely talented artist, and we've gotten to exchange ideas and back and forth. And I think this is the first show she's attended. Thank you so much. I appreciate you being here. Great woman. Very intelligent. Amazing eyes, to be honest with you, and very artistically capable. How can someone that's completely new to meditation use your method to facilitate growth in their own life?
Yeah, so you can go to my website, theyieldingwarrior.com. There's membership options there for a multitude of different things, depending on where you want to go with your practice. You can reach out to me through the social media, Facebook community. There's also a contact email on the website, and I'm happy to help
a group
in any way I can.
Do you have a group in Facebook?
Yes.
You know how they have, so that's what you're saying. Look for your Facebook group. What's it called?
The Yielding Warrior.
That's a good name for it. Sorry, I should have known that. New to meditation. Don has a great question here. Can children or teens benefit from? Well, the benefit is when you're more, going further in your life. But the benefit of doing it when you're a child or a teen is that it becomes an integration of your life or into your life, so that you start off differently than you would have otherwise, right?
They've done some studies on integrating meditation into grade schools, and they found some really interesting stuff that you may have expected some of it, but it ended up being more powerful than they actually expected. They had just these quick sessions every morning with grade school kids where they would have them sit in silence for 5 or 6 minutes, very short meditation sessions. And all the schools that they randomly picked to run these tests, it was almost hands down the same in every school. The average GPA went up, the focus went up in class, kids were being more productive. They were getting so many benefits from this. And now for those of you parents out there, this idea of studying the concept of yielding and teaching that to your kids so they learn how to be strategic, that's life-changing, because when you can develop that heightened awareness and have that ability to guide things to a positive outcome without all the conflict, that's very powerful and can be used in any area of your life.
No doubt. In this next question, algebra. Sorry, I know I butchered that one. But is it better to meditate in silence or using this method? Wasn't this method encompasses part of it encompasses meditating in silence, right? There's the other, but it also encompasses it, right? Is there a better or not better for all the practices around silent meditation?
So when you're learning something remotely or online, we always want to have the systems to deliver the information to you. However, I recommend staying away from having any kind of videos or audios going on when you're doing your ritual practice. There is a time and a place for those. However, having a little bit of time aside every day that you can turn your focus inward. The meditative arts are often referred to as the internal arts, and they're called the internal arts for a reason, in that we're not meant to use our energy to look outward when we're meditating or listen outward. We're meant to focus inside and develop a heightened awareness of what's going on in our minds and in our bodies. And through this heightened awareness, we start to develop all of the powers of the practice. And so, with having that understanding, you could learn a system through studying videos. But when you go to do your practice, I would recommend going slower and trying to do it off of memory and doing your own thing so you can develop that heightened awareness. Much will be much better for you than trying to go through and listen to audios every time that you meditate.
Wow. Plus that you had talked about doing videos. You can watch videos, but that's a separation of better bringing in of the knowledge, right? To have a coach or somebody that's personal, and that's a lot different than a video. Videos are awesome. Believe me, I'm working with some people right now to work on AI programs for when people like me, there's Alice Gray and Gray. When people like me were in the 80s or 90s, when the internet came, when I'm diverting a little bit here, but when the internet came and all that, they were all people of elderly, people of the great American middle class, became isolated from the rest of civilization, because everybody knew how to do this stuff and they didn't. AI's coming in faster, and so it will. My good friend here. One daily habit you already talked about. This question just came in. Do you want to go back over some of that? What is the number one? We're all beginners here. Like I am a beginner, let's say. I am. But what is to start off? And I'm sure you teach this in your initial parts of your class or your program. But to start off, what is the one daily habit that you want somebody to buy in on and grab on and go with it? What is that habit? So
I'm going to answer that in a couple paths. The first path is go back and listen to the three considerations. Having those three considerations and understanding that is essential for starting a practice. Then the next thing is at least having a ritual practice that you do every day. And you can start small. It doesn't have to be sitting for 2 hours. Even if it was just 5 or 10 minutes a day where you're doing that consistently. And then second, integrating some active practices. And for those of you that don't really understand what I mean when I say active practices, right now I've got a program where I'm giving away, all you got to do is enter your email. It's called onebreath.theyieldingwarrior.com. You could go there. It's got 2 books that talk about
one breath all word.
onebreath.theyieldingwarrior.com. And you go there, and it's got 2 ebooks for talking about reset practices and the 5 regulations and how to integrate those. And it's got a number of video lessons that show you how to start putting some of this stuff into practice. And so that's a free resource I have that I give out on podcasts. So anybody out there listening is welcome to go check that out.
That's excellent. That is again, paying it forward. That's what this world and this society needs. Ronaldo, I mentioned earlier, came back and asked this. She's actually been in she's been involved in the teaching meditation and Tai Chi for most of her life. I don't know exactly how old she is, but she's still, I don't know. But anyway, the reason I brought that up is because people involved in it already, for those people who aren't, somebody who's been involved in it, what Jeff is teaching here to his to everybody are recognized by peers in the industry. Not everybody is the right person to teach something or another thing, and that's why it's great to have this information out. You be sure and leave your contact information in the private chat, and I'll send it over. Maybe Ronaldo, why don't you guys chat about things and do what that is needed to do. So Jeff, this has been I think we got all the questions. Two things. Is there anything we've missed that you also want to cover on top? And roll that into the only reason I'm you said you didn't want to go over an hour, so I'm just kind of trying to be respectful here, because like you said, there's a couple of those subjects we could talk for the next 2 hours on. But anything we missed that you want to accentuate or and final thoughts?
One more thing I'd like to leave you guys with is that, all of the people that I've had come through the academy that have taken on this practice, and I've seen this over and over again, if they listen to my recommendation of starting a ritual practice, integrating some active practices and some philosophical practices, and they keep that up through that consistency every day for a year, I bet 95 or even more % of those people that do that will do this practice for the rest of their life, because they'll see so many benefits from it that they would be crazy to stop. And so my only request for you guys out there is, if you're at all inclined to want to take on a practice like this, commit to it for a year, make it part of who you are, and you'll see so many benefits and lay the foundation for so many things to come that it'll just be part of your life, and you'll look forward to it, and it'll enhance so many different areas.
Well, it's even more, it'll enhance your life, but at some point, like exercise, because of the endorphins, because of the clarity in the mind and the building of your frame, all that. For instance, producer Barbie, when she gets to a point, she always does meditation in the morning. She does, I think, 10 minutes of meditation in the morning, and she works out because we all have issues. I mean, she doesn't have issues. I have a lot of issues she's helped me out with, but it is true what you just said. What are your closing thoughts about that?
I just think all of you guys should give it a try. I can tell you, and I could guarantee you, even if you put this kind of effort into the practice, it'll be one of the best things you ever do for yourself.
All right. Now, I'm late on this. I just saw your website. Is that everything that you want to put on that? Because it's true. As a matter of fact, you and I are going to probably hook up here in a bit. I hope. And wait. Comments here. Did I get everything right here? Paste and go. All right, so there's Jeff's website. I know there were a couple other things you said about something.com, which isn't this one, right?
I also put that in there, onebreath.theyieldingwarrior.com. That's where you get access to that free page.
You put another one in. Sorry. Okay. Well, you know what? What a great show, Jeff. Awesome. This has been, and I'll pull that other one over to here in a second after I kick you in the green room, and then I do a little bit of closing comments, and then we have a closing video, that points out in each of these conversations, we always do clips within the description that you could click on that has similar concepts with that. So everything beautiful done, man. That was a great conversation. I'm very familiar with the concept because producer Barbie's very much into that as well, and I see the benefits. Jeff, what you're saying, you'll see the benefits. There's no question, or hopefully you will, kind of thing. Jeff, wave to all your new fans. You still got 100 people on here, and there's been as many as 350, I think it was. Wave hi to everybody. We'll talk to you soon.
Hey, thanks for coming.
Yeah, you bet, man. All right, so there was Jeff. I'm going to leave Ronaldo. I'm going to leave you up here. Let me I promised to take these and put them over here. Let me try that again. Paste. There it is. All right, so I did my final official duty for this show for this day. I'm very excited about the way things are growing. We're growing incredibly fast. I mean, where was I looking at? Last 28 days, we've had like 17,000 hours of watch time and godly amounts of viewers and subscribers and stuff. So thank goodness the message is getting across, because we as the middle class, we have to design this world moving forward. We can't put it in the hands of the politicians. So I look at it this way. You need to, oh shit, how many more? Oh, okay. We've got to have that and combine to have a powerful common voice to have the talk, to have the direction of things go at our look. We put politicians in our government, as all people do in their government so far. We put them in there to do the best job for us, meaning I don't care if they're right or left or center or whatever. But at the end of the day, if you look down your block, everybody down that block is pretty much have the same issues you do. And yet everybody down that block, we haven't come together and discuss things. Say hi to your neighbor. Go out and say hi to somebody else. Go out and I talk about this a lot. There was a professor here in Chicago that did this very interesting project. His class was required to just randomly get on a bus and take that bus ride, purposely sit next to somebody, and then within 3 questions, you can get to a point that's a real and private or deep conversation. Hi, how you doing? Oh, hi. Are you going to work? Yeah. Oh, what work do you do? Okay. So all of a sudden, it's very easy to communicate, and things we used to do naturally, and we don't anymore. So at the end of the day, create a vibe that other people want to walk into. As you go through life, it's very easy to actually be optimistic and calm and settled versus what everybody else is doing. So we need that for everybody. Ronaldo, again, I appreciate you being here. Very cool, man. I'm very excited about that. Producer Barbie, I'm sure you're going to call me in a minute, out from the West Coast, and we're going to do our review. And really, honestly, with that, I'm out.
Before you leave, if you'd like to watch another one of the podcasts, click the first link in the description. We love having you here, and we appreciate all your support.
And with that, producer Barbie and I are out.